Yo, what is up, everybody? It's your boy Andrew Esquire here on the Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. And today I'm on like 3.5, 4 hours of sleep because last night the state, i.e. the Central Florida Tourism District, sued Disney back. So it's kind of a countersuit in state court, not a true countersuit, but a suit in state court. So now we have suits going both ways between effectively the state and of Disney. So they're both kind of suing each other now, but which is a great time, a perfect time for me to have someone on to talk about the differences in state court, federal court, the back and forth games with an actual, factual, real boy who is a real Florida attorney, not just somebody from California or Virginia who doesn't know what he's talking about. No, he is down there in good old Volusia County. Yes, I pronounced it correctly. That is Stephen Gosney, my friend.
Hey, man, I'll tell you. Oh, boy, they should have hired a Florida lawyer. Disney should have. They got these New York and California lawyers. They think they're smart. You know who you're talking to?
Yeah.
This guy right here, man.
Yeah.
You have vaulted into the stratosphere with your expertise on your commentary. You are the go-to guy on the internet on the Disney DeSantis lawsuits. And I'll tell you, I used to do, people don't know this, but I used to be a dirt lawyer. And I did.
There you go. Back in the day.
Yeah. Back in the day, I did criminal. I didn't, before criminal, I was doing real estate and property and probate litigation, and went to prosecution side because I got afraid of the courtroom and I needed to break that if you're a litigator. So I said, I need trial experience. And so I went to prosecutors and got kind of tied up. But I was a dirt lawyer. In fact, my dream job was always to be a quiet title suit for the fund. That would be my dream job.
That is actually a fun job. That's actually a really fun job. You know, just because it's like, especially quiet title suits and those sorts of suits, they're actually very like calm and relaxing. You know, they're not high drama.
Exactly. I'm still available. Maybe they could hire me. Get rid of this death penalty crap. I'm ready to do some quiet title suits.
By the way, we'll talk about that towards the end, because I do want to add that on.
Please.
That's like, there's so much to tack on, right? I was just going to talk to you about like, hey, Steve, let's talk about some procedural games that you've seen in your times as.
Let's do that. The less death penalty, the happier I'll be. I'll do whatever you want. It's your show, but I'm as far as I'm concerned.
I'm just saying, look, I've got you, right? You know, I've got you as a captured, you know, I've got you. We'll stick around for an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long it goes. But, since I've got you, I got to ask, right? This is something that you practice, you do. It'd be a disservice not to ask your take on it.
Okay, but I will say that let's talk as much dirt law as possible, because I'm telling you, I've watched like 3 like super long streams that you've done on the Disney Descents, because I was an annual pass holder 2 years in a row.
Look, and let me be very clear. Because when I represented my clients in Central Florida, one of them actually just provided a free annual pass, right? So I just had an annual pass. So I would go to Disney back in the day. It was obviously free. I mean, other than the food I spent there. And by the way, the food I spent there was an insane amount of money. Insane. Going to Epcot,
pack our lunch.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You pack your lunch and go hang out in the Pooh forest. Winnie the Pooh, not Pooh.
Yeah, Winnie the Pooh.
Yes,
yes. Oh, by the way, shout out to Uncivil Laws. See you in the chat. Senpai notices you. Somebody actually asked me in the comments. They're like, "Do you collaborate with Uncivil?" I'm like, "Yes, I've had Uncivil on my channel many times, and I've been on his." So appreciate all y'all out there today. But yeah, packing the lunch, going to Disney. You were an annual pass holder. Are you still an annual pass holder?
No, and I'll tell you, this is how I've probably been to Disney World over 100 times. And when we had our annual passes, my son was at that perfect Disney age, right? And so every weekend you got to get the maximum value. So every weekend we'd pack it over, we'd go over to Disney and hang out and just relax. When you have an annual pass, you don't have to wait in the lines, you just enjoy it. And I remember that we did it 2 years in a row. And near the end of the second year, it was like, hey, you want to go to Disney? And my son says, no, I'd rather read my book. So he was Disneyed out. So we burned it to the ground. When I was a kid, I was at the Epcot opening day for 3 days. We spent the night over there. I think we were at the Contemporary. I probably went 40 times when I was a kid. So
Right.
I've been to Disney so much, and I am very disheartened. And I got so many Disney connections. One of my friends I went to college to was chief of investor relations for Disney in Anaheim for many years. We're just retired. Thank God, man. She got out just in time. Or a Disney stock crash,
It's kind of funny to me, Steve, too. I actually saw this is kind of fucked up. But those kids in law school that are like the worst, right? Like the worst in the class. You went to UF as well, right?
No, I went to Stetson undergrad and then Washington and Lee Law and UCF Masters.
I almost went to Washington and Lee for law school, except for the fact that they didn't offer me a scholarship. But anyways, so there's the kids that were, at the top of the class, kids in the middle of the bottom. So all of the kids at the bottom of the class, I looked, they're working for the ones in Orlando work for Disney now, which always what makes me laugh as in-house. So I'm like, whenever anybody talks about the crack legal team, I'm like, this is literally the most mentally challenged people in my class that were very questionable. One of them works at DVC, and the bottom of the bottom is actually in the general counsel's office, not the general counsel, but in the general counsel's office at Disney. I'm like,
well, and as a Floridian and somebody who lived in Central Florida, the Rat does not have a good employee relationship, and yes, their reputation as an employer is not good, and it's been that way for decades.
It is not good. You're paid bottom of the barrel because the whole point is it's viewed as a privilege. Like you have the privilege of putting Disney on your resume, and that's what they're paying you in their name, right? For law firms, what they do is they bill their work out to the lowest bidder, right? A lot of their work, for example, their employee disputes, everything else. Other large corporations might pay $300, $400 an hour to like very experienced lawyers. They're paying like $75. It's very, 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 and to people that may sound like a lot of money, to lawyers, that's pretty much nothing in a large law firm that's not able to pay their pyramid scheme structure of, to keep the
people that the executives that live in Winter Park, Disney, those people are fine. It's the rest of the folks that get screwed. Uncivil Law says, I did a tour of the underground at Disney World once. I saw the underground tunnels because when you're at Disney, that's actually the second floor. Actually, I didn't do the tour. I just snuck down the tunnels. I just walked. I went down. There's you follow the characters and you see where they go. And so went down there. I walked all around, saw the costuming department, and I'm just walking along like I'm doing something. I have this authority. People think I work there,
right?
So
if you're confident and you look like you know where you're going, nobody's going to question you. It's the second you stop and you start looking lost,
or you have your Disney ears on,
Yeah, then they're going to ask the questions, right? Then they're going to ask the questions. But look, they've got a crazy operation there. It's massive. It's the size of San Francisco in terms of the size of Walt Disney World.
100 square kilometers, over 100 hotels. 4 massive theme parks. People don't realize Disney picked the wrong fight. I mean, they could like Nikki Haley, Disney's gonna move. Ha ha. Disney ain't going anywhere.
Are you kidding me? Like, where are they gonna find that property? And just seriously, anywhere in the United States, where is that property? Like Montana? Are you gonna move Disney World to Montana? You're not, by the way.
Right.
Like you've got.
Well, what are they gonna do with the Orlando property? Are they gonna sell it? I mean, we were walking around the other day. My son and I went. We do go to House of Blues. I saw it was at was it Ginger? I think we went to the Ginger concert. Ginger at House of Blues there now it's Disney Springs. Back then it was
it used to be downtown Disney.
Right? Walt Disney World Village. Anyway, it's the House of Blues there. So we went down there and we were walking through that place and it's huge shopping. And I'm like, and so we were talking because this Disney garbage was hitting the fan, and I was like, just how much would you value this shopping center, which is what it is, right? I mean, this piece of property, just this, what you can see within eyeshot, how much is this worth? And what's the tax base here? I mean, boy, Disney blew it. They really blew it.
And just understand that they've now lost a lot of the controls, like the basic controls like taxation, like permitting, like, for example, just knowing that, hey, they never had building and fire codes.
Well,
Like,
actually, let me take. I heard this, and I need to
yes.
correct you on this. I
Yeah,
I,
sure,
I
sure.
may have a bit of knowledge that you don't, so
Oh,
I have
you
to feel.
don't? Okay.
Okay,
Give me
okay.
that knowledge.
Well, actually, because I used to run the home builders before law school, I was a builders association executive.
Oh, awesome.
And yes, and so when the South Florida Building Code came in, and there was the Hurricane Andrew, there was a big change in the SEBC and the building codes in Florida.
Mhm.
And they upped the perking. Goes, well, there's actually 3 building codes in Florida. There's South Florida Building Code. There's the SBCC. I think I forget what there's.
Because to be
Southern
clear, South Florida has a higher building code because of hurricanes.
And then there's the Epcot code. Okay. Now you say, like, and see, you're making the fun. You're like, well, they don't have codes. They build whatever they want. It's junk. Actually, the Epcot code is ridiculously strict, because what they do is when they hire a contractor to come and build and they get the bidding, they've got those. I mean, that place is solid as a rock. It's like steel and girders and stuff. It's built to a very high standard because of that's when you come and build on Disney property, you got to comply with the Epcot building code. So,
right. But I mean, once again, I think the issue is, and I think the issue was, and that is a great point to make, by the way, is the enforcement of that on an ongoing basis. Because obviously, from a contractual standpoint, when you hire a contractor to build for you, you want them to build it to the highest possible standard, right? You want them to be legally obligated to build it to an insane standard. However, when it comes to the maintenance of that property, right, and it comes to the upkeep of that property, are you maintaining it? To what standard are you maintaining it to?
Did you get my
who's going to call you on it?
Who's going to call? Did you get my email on my, like, one of my little insights? And I'm like, investor tips. Did you see that one?
Oh, was that the one about the neighboring property?
Yes. You go ahead. What do you think about that idea?
So let me pull up while we're just talking here. I'll pull up the Orange County Property Appraisers website. But let me just say this: is there are a lot of things that can happen now that Disney doesn't control the district, because you understand that the district, and for everybody out there, the district kind of controlled the placement of the roads around Disney.
And if you didn't play well with the mouse wouldn't play well with you, right?
The mouse would not play well with you. So this is actually the Orange County, and I'm just going to share this right here. I know that I got to get StreamYard to work properly because I've got the mouse issues, but and not the type of mouse issues that are happening in this lawsuit right now. This is the Orange County Property Appraisers website. Anybody can pull this up, right? At all whatsoever. And obviously, you've got Magic Kingdom over here, right? You can see Magic Kingdom, right?
Yeah, and this all of this kind of, what is that, greenish blue property? That is all Disney property.
Yeah, that is all Disney property. Now, there are things within here. Let me be very clear. There are things that are not Disney property within this. For example, when you zoom in, you see this shades of green right here. This property is owned by the U.S. Army, morale welfare. So this is actually one of those specific properties that they likely failed to give proper notice to, because they had to send that notice out to Alexandria, Virginia, let them know that they were doing all these massive changes. So anything that was within Reedy Creek, they had to send out specific notice. But anyways, over here in Disney Springs, what Steve Gosney was talking about with me was that there are a lot of properties that are right next to Disney, right? They're right abutting Disney or around Disney, particularly over here, like Winter Garden, Vineland Road. You've got stuff that's up here that was right outside of the boundary of Disney. And for the longest time, there's no access and kind of cut through here, right? So you've got really, really poor access.
Well, there it is. So just go up a little bit further, you'll see it.
Yeah.
See, in order to get, right there,
the Hilton Grand Cypress, right?
The Hilton Grand Cypress is a spectacular hotel, huge, impressive. And when you're driving past
the Hyatt, sorry, it's a Hyatt, right?
Yeah, Hyatt, and you're looking at it, you're like, what is that hotel? It's spectacular, and it's giant, and it's built right there. But in order to get to Disney property from that hotel, you have to go out this road onto this crappy high traffic road right here.
Yep.
Exit there, go around, then take a left and a left. Oh, it's so inconvenient.
Yep. And all you needed to do is have a nice little cut through right here.
Exactly.
And in property that's owned by, let's look at this. What's the property that's separating these two roads owned by?
Reedy Creek. What do you
Reedy
think?
Creek. Well, don't you know what Reedy Creek can do there? They can just build a little road and make it much, much easier.
And, you know, I think that the traffic that hotel dumps onto that high traffic road, this would greatly ease the traffic congestion on that road.
And by the way, they said they hired, this is one of the things they noted in their last meeting, they've hired a urban planner to look at how they can be a better neighbor to the folks around them. I think stuff like that, just an easy cut through, is a great way to be a good neighbor.
I think so too. You know, and people don't realize what a bad neighbor Disney has been to the Floridians. No. They don't understand when they're like that we're taking such glee in their downfall. You know, and the thing is that, well, first of all, there's the whole current debate, the politics, the infusion, but they've earned a bad reputation over many decades.
And they've been a bad neighbor to their to people that are right next to them. I tell people pretty openly, I used to represent, it's partly here, you can kind of see it, Bonnet Creek, which is here, it's part in this in the next county. So I had to debate them for years about the signage leading up to Bonnet Creek, because they had a special agreement to put signage in Disney, because the only way to get to Bonnet Creek is through Disney. And the state wouldn't allow us to have a cut through from I-4, so wouldn't allow I-4 to directly connect. So I had to fight them, you know, tooth and nail for everything. And then, of course, once we get stuff, they're like, well, we're just going to take more of your property in order to expand our road, right? They constantly will try to screw you over in everything they negotiate with. By the way, this is Orange County, but in Osceola County down here, there's this road 192. It's right here, down here. There's such a stark difference when you go from Disney property to off Disney property. And the sad thing is, many Disney workers live in these rundown hovels off of what is 192 here. It's very, very sad, especially like the housekeeping staff, the janitorial staff. They are not dealt with in a nice way. So
this little top end here, there's a whole nother piece that's in the other counties that they're not showing. See, so
this is below it's in Osceola County. So I was just showing you Orange County because this is the majority of it, right? The majority of Disney, but it's not all of Disney. It extends down, which is why, by the way, it's appropriate for the governor to appoint a board, because whenever there's a multi-county situation like this, that is appropriate for the governor, because that is something the state resolves, a conflict between counties. Because otherwise, Orange County would say, well, I want to appoint 4 out of 5 board members. And Osceola would say, no, it should be, you know, half and half with a neutral party, you know, and the governor kind of resolves that. And by the way, you go look at other large operations in Orlando. For example, here you see Universal Studios, right? Universal Studios, big operation here. This is their main operation, but then they also have their new operation, which is going on over here, right? In this area.
What is that going to be?
That is their Epic Universe. So you see Universal City Partners Development here.
Mm-hmm.
So I can spill the beans on this because it's not a secret anymore. Here you go. Epic Universal proposed theme park. See this right here?
Right.
So what actually happened, I'll actually tell you guys a little bit of an old story. So all of this property, Universal had an option to buy it. And they kept that option, preserved that option for years. And when I was there, we exercised that option. So this was a massive deal to buy out all of this property. And in fact, over here, which is I Drive, there's this giant wheel called the Orlando Eye.
Right.
That was actually built in response to us buying this property because they knew that this is going to have a really good view into Universal once it actually is built out.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know. This is
So
good inside information.
This is insider information.
Well, here's some more like this is.
And this is where Mario is going to go, guys. This is where Mario Park is going to go. The Nintendo stuff. It's all going to go in here. So
well, that's fascinating. And let me just explain what iDrive is, because see, you've got these major theme parks. SeaWorld's over here. You've got the 2 Universal parks. You've got the 4 Disney parks. All of this is right in this little zone.
Yes.
But iDrive is outside the city limits of Orlando. So the city of Orlando is there. And then all of a sudden you've got capitalist hell on the iDrive, which is just unregulated, crazy Florida stuff. And that's kind of, I'd say that it's explained, but the whole key is
it's the county. It's the county, and the county was just allowing anything to do whatever. But also, I will say the city is kind of woke as hell, and they kind of were putting really, really crazy restrictions at a certain point. It flipped at a certain point where the city became more open to development, but for a long time it was hard to develop in the city. So it was preferable in the county, which is why iDrive busted out as such a madhouse, like you said, because the regulations were just not there. You could do whatever. You could put pretty much whatever you wanted.
It's so Florida, like unregulated tourist trap. It's crazy, you know.
So some inside baseball here, and this is for you guys, is that Universal was interested in forming a special district. So I actually, while I was there, explored the option of building a special district that covers this property. And actually, we wanted to even see if we could get it. And this is kind of insane, right? But we wanted to say, let's pull a Disney. Let's have it connect the 2 properties. So we'll have this big property down here connect along Kirkman Road to the other property here, including, by the way, Wet and Wild, which is owned by Universal as well.
Wet and Wild. Is that still functioning?
Yes. No, they've closed that down and turned it into hotels.
Okay.
So it's now hotels. But the point is that we wanted to explore that, that possibility. And we also were exploring the possibility of approaching the legislature. And when we went to the legislature and said, hey, can we do a Reedy Creek thing? They were like, absolutely fucking not. We never want to do that thing again. That is horrible. That was a horrible decision. But we go, we have kind of an equity argument, because why are they allowed to do it and we're not?
This is exactly what, and we have. This is Florida politics, and let's explain.
Yes.
I live in Daytona Beach, and we are the redheaded stepchild of Central Florida. Everybody looks down on little old Daytona Beach, and for good reason, I will say. And one of those things is that
we call it the dirty Daytona.
Daytona.
I've seen needles on the beach there. No offense, Steve.
Well, it's not so much that; it's that we have. It's a madhouse over here. Let's just leave it at that. But one of the things is that we have this government that thinks we're actually going to compete with the mouse, right? That like Daytona is going to be the destination for families. And we're so confused about what we are. And our leadership is all the lawyers and the doctors that want to have like family fun and museums and stuff. And really the city is really like bikers and race week and airplanes, right? So, but anyways, what they do is then they have this taxing, and they'll tax. And they'll tax and they'll build a big hotel on the waterfront and fund it with tax dollars, like the Hilton here, which has changed names like 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And they spent $3.5 million to build this hotel. And I'm like, what about, where that tax money's coming from? All the little mom and pop hotels along there that are struggling to make things meet, and they're going to take that money and give it to Hilton. I mean, It's like, where's the equity there? Oh, we're for the little guy. Yeah, sure. Tax the little guy, tax the rich, catch the poor, and give to the rich. That's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's crazy. And this is your equity argument right there.
Yeah. And honestly, the thing is, it's like you've said to me, it's who they know. There's a lot of this inside baseball of like, who knows who. And when you look at, hey, why were these people allowed to do this and these people weren't? It often is exactly that, right?
Let me tell you an inside story. So I used to be involved in all this stuff over here in Daytona, and like one of the guys that was a principal and who shall remain unnamed, who was involved in this ridiculous deal where basically the county lost the $3.5 million. The hotel went bankrupt, which everybody knew would happen, and they lost their shirt. And this same guy that went to the county and got that money and lost it for the county goes back to the county and gets another 2 million for another project, right? And I was talking because I was friendly with this guy, and I'm like, what's going on here? Because I'm a resident. I'm like, our county, and he's like, vacate given. What am I supposed to stop asking? I thought that was a pretty good point. If we're so stupid to keep throwing the money out, right? We also have the racetrack. We have a racetrack.
Well, the racetrack is the biggest draw in Daytona. Let me just be very clear. Like, the racetrack has always been the big thing in Daytona. You think of Daytona, you think of the Speedway, right? The Daytona Speedway. That's always been the massive, massive draw for Daytona.
We're a special events town.
I will say, I mean, you can confirm or deny, but I think Daytona and the Florida coast has grown as Florida has grown, right? So obviously, as the demand for Florida is up, people look for places in Florida that, hey, this area costs less. This area has potential for development. So they're going to develop where there's potential. They're like, okay, people want to move to Florida, right? They just want to move to Florida. They don't know the history and the backstory like us good old Florida boys, right? Once you're in there, you know the difference between, for example, Port St. Lucie and Stewart, right? There's a big difference between Port St. Lucie
Punta
and Stewart.
Gorda and Fort Myers. Right.
There's a huge difference.
Eustis and Mount Dora.
Right? If you look, if you look at a map, you're like, oh, these places are right next to each other. But then you go there and you're like, wait a second. All right, let me catch these super chats. And by the way, guys, if there's any, tell me if there's any YouTube issues or anything else. But yeah, just report those to me and I'll obviously follow up with any YouTube issues. And Rumble has been giving me some issues, but I'm going to make sure that everything uploads that. I'll do it manually if I have to today. So don't worry, I will get to all of that. But I've been streaming nonstop, so I haven't had a chance to
rocking. You are in your
baby
zone.
Rumble.
This is your zone, man. I'm so excited for you because this is your baby. You need to spike that football, man.
Oh, I will. And I am going to, because look, this is only going to heat up and the bullshit's going to heat up. And frankly, let me be very clear. All of the experts that they've pulled out don't know what the hell they're talking about. And they're going to continue to pull them out from nowhere, right? With no experience, knowing nothing about this, knowing nothing about state law, nothing about development agreements, and ask these people out of state what they think about the case.
Yeah, this is what hilarious. I think. It's a snobatorium over there, and they're thinking they got their big city New York lawyers, and they're going to come down and tell these boondockers, Floridians, what they're doing, and they are going to get their clock cleaned. We have home cooking in Florida, man. We are home cooking.
They're gonna get blown out trying to bring that bullshit down there. 68 SPC says, can't wait to hear what Andrew Esquire has to say on the subject tonight. I love all the short clips you've been posting of the long streams I can't watch. Yeah, awesome. I have a new couple folks helping me out. They're creating clips. So hopefully you guys are liking those. I know it takes the algorithm a while to get those generated. And, sometimes they'll be kind of lagging. Like, for example, it takes us a couple days to get clips out. So you haven't seen Disney clips likely till recently, but hopefully you see more of those so you guys get the explanations you guys need. Yes. And actually, I also will have clips out as well.
I've got somebody helping me out too, doing my little short clips on my YouTube channel. Because I've got I'm more of a rumbler. But somebody's like, you should get your YouTube up, and I always fool with it and I always mess it up. And so I was like, why don't I use that as my little short clip channel? Because the algorithm rewards these little short clips. So go sign up for my YouTube channel, and you'll get clips of my ridiculously long streams.
Honestly, that's great though, because people need those clips. Like, there's people who want to watch a ridiculously long stream. There's people who will watch a 3 or 4 hour stream, but there's people who will prefer to just have 10 seconds or 30 seconds to watch, and they want the TLDR version. And also, if they're watching all of us, they don't have 13 hours in the day to dedicate to it. They want to get the TLDR version.
Absolutely. I'm not opposed.
Yeah. Let me see here. So Kavit says, but Andrew, I was told that Ron DeSantis admitted to wanting to punish Disney in his own memoir for opposing him. It's in his memoir, right? Right. Yeah, that's a no. And
who cares? Listen, it doesn't matter. Do they have the power?
Thank you. And this is the thing. This is the biggest thing for me, Steve. And listen, I don't care whether you like or hate Ron DeSantis. At a certain point, you have to say, okay, This is the lawsuit. This isn't about whether we like Trump or DeSantis or Disney or how we feel about this. It's what is the relevant law here? And this is something in this conversation that is generally missed. It's, oh, well, DeSantis doesn't like Disney, so therefore Disney wins. I'm
Yeah,
like,
well,
wait,
this is
what?
that tribalism going, and
Yeah.
and you might have heard me on some other streams. It's like I am so for DeSantis on the Disney stuff, and on the school stuff that he's doing, and on the
Right.
good management that the state is doing great with their financial management. I am 100% opposed on his death penalty initiatives. So
Right.
it's like, he's a politician. Let's not put a crown on him or just yet. He's a politician. He's playing to you, but you got to call it the way you see it. And I don't like this tribal, like, oh, because it's DeSantis and I don't. No, your analysis was so spot on. And I've done real estate litigation. You understand exactly what's going on. And when I was listening to you and read that complaint, the Disney federal complaint, I'm like, these guys do not have any clue about what they were doing. How can a major corporation, and they're all these big lawyers, New York. When I saw it as New York, LA, I'm like,
and DC.
And DC, that's perfect. That's exactly who wrote this. And they're stupid. Elites
York,
go down
LA,
with the
and
elites,
DC. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the thing is, they think that they're federal. They think that, okay, federal law is going to come in here and trump state law. But the point is, and by the way, guys, in case you didn't catch it, please check out my stream on the new state lawsuit. I go line by line over this complaint. This complaint was just filed.
I love
literally
this.
yesterday. It's fresh. By the way, Steve, you know what I hated? So when I went to search for this, I just see if anybody else has pulled it, right?
Right.
And Deadline had it, but they tramp stamped it with a Deadline watermark. And I'm like, you fucking assholes. This is all available for free on our state filing system. So, of course, as got on the system, it found it and pulled it, right? It's obviously easier to Google than it is to hop on the state system. But I'm like, you guys just had to put a deadline. It's like if I put legal mindset on this. This is nobody's property. And I will be uploading this to my locals afterwards for anybody who wants to see it. Right, and see these documents. I'll also upload the Disney suit. I'll upload both lawsuits. I'll pin them in the locals in case anybody wants to use them. I don't care. I don't have ownership over either one of these things. These are public documents. Anybody tries to gatekeep this is really being weird with with public documents, free documents. So let me get some of these others. We got a couple more super chats here. IFID says, Andrew, the true Florida man of the law community. Steve, which is the best metal guitar brand of all time? And why is it Jackson Guitar?
Good one. Well, I will say that I am well spread out. I have a Paul Reed Smith. I have a Fender Telecaster. I also have a Fender Stratocaster and a Gibson Les Paul. So I'm quite diverse. I will say on the bass guitar brands. Oh, and Martin. Martin is awesome. Martin is clearly my favorite acoustic brand. On the basses, I have my favorite. My number one is a Spectre, but this is coming up fast, and that's my Rickenbacker. So, and my son's a big Fender guy. I'd say probably Fender, but there's room for debate here. We could spend an all night just talking guitars, and I would love to.
We are not doing that tonight. I love you, Steve. I love you so much. You're amazing. I really do. I love talking with you every single time.
I do too. You're so much fun too. This is so great. It brings me back to when I had. Well, see, I didn't have fun. I hated civil litigation, but
you would have fun. No, if we were doing this, I mean, honestly, like Steve, like if I was in Florida, I would continue to practice. People ask about me and what my background is. I was never a litigator. Like I was never a criminal, defendant, public defender. I was never a state attorney. I was never a civil litigator. That's not what I ever did. I always did special district law, real property transactions, bonds, and then I switched to in-house counsel, where what I did a lot of compliance, but also was examining real covenants. That's one of the things I did on a regular basis. So this
you were more of a transactional guy.
Transactional guy. Now
you would be so good in a courtroom. I can't believe.
Well, you know what's funny? I have been to court for bond validations. Whenever you validate a bond, you have to go to court to validate those bonds. So when people say, have you gone to court? I'm like, technically I have. I've validated millions of dollars of bonds in court, and my name is on those filings. So you can actually find those.
People don't know the great thing, like why I love doing derangement of title and real property quiet title suits is because the judges have no clue what you're talking about. And they look to you and you're the expert. And they're like, Gosney, what's going on? And your reputation is everything. And you're like, well, here's the issue, court. you tell them and they're like, oh, okay, well, what do I need to sign? Because they don't have any clue either. I worked with, I don't know if you know Landis Graham French. That's the firm I used to work with.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's the oldest firm in Florida. So I worked with them for 6 years. They're out of DeLand.
By the way, let me ask you a quick, before I get there, let me say, guys, if you're not already knowing Steve's products and what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
Steve,
it's so sweet. Look at him.
SteveGosney.com, Ideas and Answers in the Law. I'm just going to say, it's a good book.
Is it?
It's a pretty good book. I liked it. It was a very good read. I mean, this is just me. Sometimes I need stuff to read while I'm, dropping the kids off at the pool. And that's what I read for hardcover books. Because when I travel, I only want to bring my phone, right? So I need a Kindle version, right? Sure. But for that book, read it while I was, while I'm, taking care of business. A great book, a fantastic book. And I think that you've got an insight into the active system that a lot of people don't have. A lot of professors never practice law.
Right.
They never do. But you're not only practicing it, you're teaching it, right? Because you're teaching courses with
American law courses.
For American law courses, just like me, you're teaching property law, right? By the way, you guys can still, if you want to look up Steve's courses or my courses, you can go and get the recordings. Also, I think I can announce this. Bronca may get mad, whatever.
I think I know what you're going to say.
He's going to call me a thought now. No, I will be teaching another class in the future. So I will be teaching a business law class in the fall, I believe. Timing, they're going to have to get back to me on the timing, and we got to get the contract. But business law, which I'm going to try to make into the most practical course for any business owner in the U.S. So like practical laws that are going to apply to your small business. This is actually what I continue to do to this day, is I continue to advise small businesses as well as people doing startups and everything else as to how to run the business, how to keep them safe in the clear, free of regulation. So I'm going to give that out as part of a course to as many people as sign up. So it's going to be fantastic.
Well, and you taught property law before, and everybody loved your work, and I'm really excited because I'm the provost, whatever that means. I don't know. But and so American law courses is a lot of fun, and it's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun because you just say, what can I do? What can I do to challenge? And challenges yourself, and you learn, you become a better lawyer after teaching something. And so I've got criminal procedure coming up, and it'll probably be me and you teaching in August. You'll do business law, and I'll do criminal procedure. Right. So yeah, that'll be great.
You're still, and that's the thing, you're still in the game. A lot of these people are not in the game. They're not doing this, but I know both. That's why I like working with you, because both you and I are still doing this actively, right? Right. It's not something that when I talk about real property, when I talked about covenants, I actually taught a class on covenants. And I said straight up in that class, and any of my students will tell you this. This is before the Disney case, right? I said, and before they did the real restrictive covenant bullshit, I said restrictive covenants in Florida are clearly not enforceable against the government, right? Oh, yeah, it's a well-established principle. Otherwise, you would have all these ridiculous HOAs, and mind you, Florida has 1 million ridiculous HOAs saying, well, in our HOA, you have to have a Trump sticker on your fire truck, right? You have to fly a LGBTQA++ flag from your police car. I mean, they would enact all sorts of regulations, which are manifestly unreasonable. You can't have private communities dictating what governments do. So in the precedent that would set would be insane, but that's the precedent Disney wants.
Or if you're living in the villages, you must buy a golf cart.
Well, and then you must put loofahs on it indicating your sexual preferences, if you've heard about that one. Yeah, no. That's the big, let's just say syphilis was trending in the villages for a while, if you haven't heard of that story.
This is so Florida insider stuff.
It's so Florida. It's so insider baseball for Florida. And then, by the way, if you're at the villages, you're going to lose out on your bonds, which are going to be deemed taxable, because you have a sham government. Oh, sorry, Disney. Did you forget about that? Little Rock for $100. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Little Rock. Appreciate your support. And yeah, I know you're saying, wish I was on Rumble, but hey, it wasn't working out today, and I try to get that moving. But appreciate that. It says, does American law have courses on personal injury? I took a position with a firm. They hired me because of my litigation experience. I need some serious things about PI law. Here's 100 prompts. Hey, appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Well, I can speak.
I don't
to
do
this
PI.
I do I'm the provost. And we were talking about this, and Andrew will probably get me for spilling beans on inside what we're doing. And we were talking about gaps because the concept, it was Andrew's concept, which was to create a first-year law school package that average Joes, people that aren't lawyers, but want to take that level of class. I mean, this is a serious level law school with the best professors, remove the political correctness, allow you to work from home, listen to home, interact with the professors, full law school classes. Now, one of the gaps that we identified was torts. And then, of course, Emily says, well, first thing you got to do is change the name of the class because nobody knows what a tort is.
Personal injury is much better. And also, I will say this. So I'm going to cover, as part of business law, business torts, intellectual property, those sort of things. So I'm going to tuck that in. And by the way, business law is not a typical first-year law course, but I think
you tap into the expertise here. You tap into the expertise. Right. You're a great teacher. You've got, here's what I have to share. And that's the whole concept. We allow the teacher to determine what's the valuable thing that they have to give rather than, here's the format, now teach it. And it's like, I don't know what that is. I've never done family law before. Well, you're teaching it this semester, right?
Yeah. Which, by the way, that's what law schools do. Yeah. We had, one of my professors was an expert. They wrote a book in constitutional law, and they were teaching property law. There was another one who actually wrote a book on land use, and they were the con law teacher. And both of those professors existed at the same school. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, you're using your professors, you're circulating them so it's fair and everybody gets a stab at doing different. No.
Were you this?
No, I was this.
Oh, you were this. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, to be completely honest, and I'm going to say that I mean this when I say it, I went to the first year, this for all the prospective law students. So I went to the admitted students day, and I went for UF, FSU, Stetson, where else? FIU.
Those are the only three schools in Florida,
FIU,
right?
And University of Miami, right?
Right.
Everybody at every other school other than UF was dumb as hell. And I was like, are you serious? These are going to be my classmates? These people are idiots. And then at UF, I was like, man, these people are smart. And there were a lot of hot girls. To be honest, there was this one blonde girl.
I've heard really looking. You are such a gator. You're such a gator. This is what all the gators like. Gators are the best. And I'm got orange and blue on my car.
No, I don't. No. But Steve, to be very clear, I did not go there for undergrad. I honestly between me and you, undergrad does not matter, right? I went to FIU. So obviously, I'm not bragging about that. It was just fine. I commuted from home. I worked as a bartender.
Dr. Cutler. Traveled. Brian Cutler, he taught at FIU.
It's fine. It's a fine school.
Yeah, no, it's a good school.
Honestly, compared to University of Miami, right? If you're talking about spending the private bucks for University of Miami versus FIU, definitely go to FIU for sure. It's not worth it to go to UM. And then pay the Coral Gables prices to live. It's just ridiculous. Like,
this is so cool. I haven't talked Florida stuff with people in a while. This is fun. Anyways, do you have other?
But they did have that. They do have the highest. This is somebody mentioned this right there. Yeah, they did have. When I entered, they had the highest interest standards. So they had the highest LSAT GPA at the time.
It's the oldest Florida school. It's public, so it's less expensive. And all the Gators, they have the better football teams, and it's big Gators. I don't know. Gators are the top public school.
Yeah,
I don't know. I went to private schools the whole way. Stetson undergrad.
That's fancy in its own way. Let's get these chats. Tankrad says, "Crap! I was watching the district's state filing video. Didn't see the notification for this. Hey, Steve, what got your books yesterday here in the UAE? Awesome. All right, UAE. You're a pit bull on this Disney debacle. No, you've got to cover it because here's the thing, guys, and share out that video because they are going to spin this shit. They're going to try, like, if you give them a second, they're going to spin it. And I was a little bit slow, and I still have not done a full line-by-line analysis of the federal complaint, which I will do. I promise everybody to do that. I did the TLDR version, the summary with Mexican Iron Man, WW Pro, and Valiant Renegade. That was a good summary, and I stand by everything I said in that. But I do want to go line by line. The problem is that will be a 3-hour video because there's so much bullshit packed into that complaint that I have to find a massive chunk of time to record that in. And frankly, here, I've got a lot of things going on behind the scenes. I've got multiple channels, as you guys know. I've got a visa I've got to renew here the other day. I'm actually having to change my time I'm going on Nick Rekieta from Wednesday to Thursday because I actually have to go to the immigration office to extend my visa, my Korean visa. So that's out there. So I've got a lot of stuff going on, but I will get that out there, the line by line review there as well. But everybody else is full of shit. I mean, I saw Legal, Leonard French, everybody else. And by the way, these lawyers may be great in their area of practice, but when they're speaking outside their area of practice, it's like a fat guy talking about fitness. It's just not, it's not good advice. It's just literally not good advice when they're trying to bat outside of that area. Okay, people want me to do that live. I could do it live. I really could. We will see. Let me put it that way. Because if it's live, the problem is it's going to be like 3 hours. Without live. With live, it's like 5. Because I'm stopping and you guys distract me and send good memes. Which really, honestly, the memes are my biggest problem. That's my with streaming.
Oh, that's chats are the best part. That's like so much fun. I know.
They send me stuff like this, and I'm like, guys, come on, like I gotta stream it on. I got families that watch this, come on, guys. All right, Tank Rat says, in 91, I went to Embry-Riddle. Oh, awesome. Very awesome. And that following spring, I was spending all my time over in Daytona Beach, the Dirty D. I failed that semester's classes and was asked not to come back. And I signed up with the USAAF. That is Take Rat. This is an awesome story.
This is a fantastic story. My son's just finishing his freshman year at Embry-Riddle.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's an Eagle, and my wife works at Riddle.
Tell him do not follow the advice of Tank Rat. Like, do not party too hard in Daytona.
Oh no, he's crushing it, man. He's crushing it there. First year, he's doing great. Computer engineering and project management is where he's headed. So, I told him do anything but law.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yes.
Let's see what we got here. If Disney called to hire you this case, would you accept? Nope, I would not accept. I would not accept. First of all, I'm also outside of Florida. I'm in Korea, right? So they would probably only try to consult with me. Also, I have legitimate conflicts of interest. Mm-hmm. So like I would think that working with them would actually be a conflict for me. So I wouldn't do it because unlike Disney's special counsel, John McGowan, I actually care about those conflicts of interest. I was shocked, Steve, and because I practice this area of law, and this is a giant no-no. I looked in the bond disclosures, and the fact that he was hired as special counsel for the district, the chief counsel for Walt Disney World Parks.
Oh, no.
Was hired as the special counsel for the district. Yeah, well,
there's a Florida bar issue there.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a bar complaint. That's a bar complaint. I mean, that's a major problem. That can be very problematic for him.
This is the guy that was certifying in a securities filing, right? So this is a federal securities filing that they were indeed a public entity, right? That Reedy Creek was a public entity, that they were independent, that they were free of Disney control. Think about this. Disney's general counsel is certifying that former Reedy Creek, now Central Florida Tourism District, but back then Reedy Creek, that Reedy Creek and Disney were separate. So it's like, imagine.
But it's like the same counsel?
The same counsel.
Yeah, well, there might be criminal liability.
I was looking, I'm like, the balls on Disney. But it's only it's only because nobody was checking, nobody was looking.
Well,
right?
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And they've got their government, they've got their big corporation, they're making millions. They've got their whole little fiefdom over there. And over time, it breeds laziness and sloth. And
yes, it does. It does. And you get used to doing it a certain way. And when people say you can't do it that way anymore, you get mad and you throw a tantrum.
Well, can I beat up on Disney a little more? And that is, I have somebody who's a good friend In fact, you might even know them. Their last name is Bronca, who are big theme park fans. And they have said, because I haven't been to Disney in a long time, except to go to House of Blues to see Ginger. And you know, when they say that they're big theme park people, and that since they've done away with the fast pass system, that the new ticketing system is just a disaster, and that they're having major problems with lines and management of crowds. And so that's, you know, it's arrogance. They're so used to people, and this whole idea of this $10,000 a night Star Wars hotel.
Oh man, which is not even themed after the old. See, here's the thing. Here's the whole thing about Star Wars. If they had just themed that, and even if it was 50-50, if they did 50% new and 50% old, that park would be printing money forever. If instead of this galactic space cruiser, it was, look at it, stay on the Death Star.
Right.
There would be people lining up everywhere. But Kathleen Kennedy convinced them, no, we need it all to be new themed because this is the future and everything else is dead.
The Jar Jar Big Suite. That's the David does. Jar Jar.
Yeah, it was a joke. It was an absolute joke. That could have printed money forever. People were dedicated to that. There's still people that are huge Star Wars fans, right? Even I would say this fandom menace, shout out to like Echo Base Network, even like people like Doomcock and stuff like that, like them or hate them or however you feel about them. The fact that they still talk about Disney, even in a hating way, you know, hating on Star Wars or whatever else, you know, geeks and gamers, all those other fucks, all those other people, good friends of mine, by the way, all of them. The fact that they talk about Disney means there's still an interest in market in Disney. There's an interest in market in doing it right, doing it correctly, and all they have to do is give up on their woke ideology that says the old is evil and toxic and patriarchal and only the new is good. All they have to do is sacrifice that, and they won't do it for money, which me
see over here, like, see this shelf, the bottom shelf of, see, these are all DVD racks. That entire bottom shelf of this DVD rack, that's that whole, that must be 30 is all Disney movies, like from the golden era: Fantasia, Dumbo, Cinderella, Pinocchio, all lined up there. I've got Song of the South.
Oh yeah,
you know, and
by the way, I see no problem with Song of the South. I'll say it. I
loved it when I was a kid. I loved it, you know. And I mean, it's the Rescuers and Aristocats, and I mean, there was so much great stuff. It's like your audience is families, children, mom and dad, or just mom bringing their child to see wonder and looking through their eyes and seeing the wonder of Disney. And you're going to shovel this like woke nonsense at them? They do not know their market.
Once again, you know, I don't care about the woke nonsense. You know, I care about the woke nonsense. Sorry, I care about the woke nonsense personally, right? And we can argue about that all day. And I go on other channels talking about this all day and how this is the death of Disney and everything else from a larger standpoint. And it's definitely from a long-term standpoint, right? Not only does the U.S. not want this, but other countries don't want this.
Right.
Other countries, when they see Disney going woke, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? We love, you know, men. We love fairy tales. We love the originals. What are you doing? Who is this person? This isn't the Little Mermaid.
Lion King, Beauty and the Beast. They had a golden era there too. Yeah. It's like, what are they doing? What was the last good Disney movie?
Mm-hmm. It's been a while. It's been a while. You could argue
because they've been captured by this left, and they don't care about their customers. They're trying to take this entity and push their ideology. Stay away from it. I don't even care if it's like it doesn't agree with me. You know, don't agree with anybody. Just tell a good story. Entertain the kids.
Entertain the kids. Just tell a good story. That's why Super Mario did well. And look, to be honest, I had a lot of complaints. I just saw Super Mario in a private box in Korea. It was fantastic. One of my best movie experiences of my life. But just because the private box, I had like a private couch. It was like, you know, just me. And I got to watch the movie from like right in front, but below everybody. So I couldn't see anybody. It was like it was a private screening on an IMAX screen. But the story had some holes, let's say. It could be very, very, very much improved. But it still made $1 billion because it wasn't woke. It didn't preach anything, and it was just a movie. Right? All you've got to do is just make movies. Just make them. Make the story okay. All right, let's read through some of these super chats. Debbie O says, worked in Tampa DRI bond issue law practice back in the 90s. There we go. You know about it. Have loved listening to your takes on the Disney suits and related law. People do not get the specificity of these laws, the sunshine aspects, etc. You do. Yes, thank you so much. When you're talking about revenue bonds, general obligation bonds, there's very specific state common law on those. In fact, it's actually part of our bar exam. Most people don't study it because they do an analysis. They're like, okay, the probability of a bond issue coming up is like 2%. So I can just take the hit on these couple questions or maybe on this essay prompt and I'll still be fine, right? Like I'll complete it. It'll be like a side issue and it'll be fine. Yeah, but it's a big deal. That's why they hire specific lawyers like me to do that. Also, sunshine law, very strong in Florida. The reason why we get the Florida man stories is because of our sunshine law and the fact that we release mugshots. And
right.
At least in Orlando, I don't know if this is in Volusia. Tell me if this is
everybody. Yeah, it's open records. I mean, we have so very
they just send it. They don't even wait. They just send it to the media. They don't have to request it because it gets annoying. They just go ahead and release it to the Sentinel. That's how they do it in Orlando.
Well, we got a big problem because they release juvie bug shots, and we're like, wait a second. We're representing the juvies, and it's like, here they are. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous, but yeah, we're very liberal with that. And that's why we have televised trials. We get Florida man, and people say, well, Florida's crazy. It is crazy, but we also get the attention because it's so accessible to the media.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, guys, speaking of open trials, and obviously I will stream the trial as much as I can. If I can go to it, the state court trial, I will do that, but we'll need to see things as they progress in state court.
The Disney trial?
The Disney trial, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm targeting, I don't know what my future, I'm going to find out this week what the next, like, few months of my life will be. So I'm in anticipation. But if I'm going to targeting that suitcase murder trial and the
Sarah
one
Boone.
with the porn clock with TikTok or whatever it is, OnlyFans.
Courtney Clenny.
Yeah,
that one is going to be fantastic. That's down in my old home, my own stomping grounds. I used to live in Brickell. That was right up the road from me in Edgewater.
You lived in Edgewater?
I lived in Brickell.
Okay, where did you live in Orlando?
Orlando. Well, I'm going to dox my location. I live downtown by Lake Eola.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, beautiful.
I also, for a while, I lived by Mall of Millennia, if you guys know that.
Yeah.
So I lived by Mall of Millennia, then I moved downtown to Lake Eola because it was easier to pick up girls on Wall Street and on Orange, and then walk right back to my place. I'm just honest, Steve.
I got you. You got to be on the south side of I-4.
Yes, you know it, because the other side.
Well, that's why they build all the stadiums so they can wipe out as many houses on that side of the eminent domain, and then you park. Yeah. Went and saw Tool at the new Amway Center. It was awesome.
Nice. Tool's amazing. I love Tool.
I'm going to see Tool in Daytona this month.
Awesome.
They're the Welcome to Rockville Festival. I'm going to go there 2 nights. Awesome. They're going to be what is it? Pantera and Tool.
That's great. That's gonna be a crazy concert. Crazy. I mean, those guys are insanely talented. Torgo says Disney is so breaded they ought to be on the menu of KFC. How they're acting, they're fixing to get fried, unbreaded. Appreciate you, Torgo, staying unbreaded. Remember a BLM showing up there in the super chats. Deborah Breeden says, Steve, do you know a good real estate lawyer in Putnam? Simple land trust for residential purpose. Should I call your old firm into land? Andrew's suggestions. Putnam County. Sorry, I didn't do anything in Putnam.
Yes, Putnam's in my circuit. So we have Putnam, Volusia, St. John's, and Flagler. That's the 7th Circuit. I do criminal law. My old firm in DeLand is Landis Graham French. They're still there. They've been around 100 years. So simple land trust. But I don't, it's been so long since I've been there.
You can always ask. That's the thing. Like, email the firms, ask, and if they don't have, or call them, that's even better. And if they can't do it, they'll usually be able to tell you who can.
Depends how gold plated do you want? That's the question. Yeah. I have some friends in.
If you need a simple land trust, it is truly simple. That's much different than if you need a complicated, multi-generational, crazy, sort of thing that's going on.
Yes, I can give you a good if you want a gold-plated firm out of Ponte Vedra, I can give you a name. But if you're looking for simple stuff, I don't have. I'm not as in tune with that real estate property law as I used to be. That would have been my thing before. I would have done that,
Love
but
it.
that's 20 years ago. You know.
Love it. Love it. Speaking of some Florida man stuff, on locals, Crusader Saracen just challenged me to a duel for $1. Hello, honorable gentlemen. Any chance of a sword duel to establish between you who is the most a Florida man? Oh, he actually wants us to duel.
Us to duel.
Well, actually, look,
how could we do that? What would be the test?
I cede to Steve because he's actually in Florida right now. So he actually would win that duel because he's in Florida and I'm in Korea.
I was born and raised. I was born and raised Daytona Beach.
Yeah, see, I almost want to feel like, and I explain this to people. Florida is like different countries, almost. I'm from Miami, not Broward.
Yeah, that's North South America.
I am more. I mean, when I grew up, I didn't know any people who looked like Steve. Steve did not exist when me growing up. It was just pretty much me, my relatives, and a bunch of Cubans, Colombians, Brazilians, Venezuelans, some Bahamians, right? Haitians, Cubans, that was me growing up. I was the minority. Like, it sounds crazy, but I grew up as a minority. So whenever people are bitching about the minorities, I'm like, well,
I was Florida. Everybody's a minority in Florida. I actually have cracker family in DeLand,
By the way, okay, let me be clear. Florida cracker is a very specific term. You cannot just say that without explaining it.
Well, you explain it. It's okay. It's cool.
It's historical. It's historical. So there's actually a specific type of Florida cattle because in Florida, the land is not as doesn't have as much water that's of a good quality. So the cattle got used to very, very rough conditions, and actually they're more hardy. So Florida cattle is actually really good in more rough areas, more swampy areas, stuff like that. And there were a lot of ranchers and farmers. In fact, that's why the Deseret ranches, right? The Mormons, they got their ranches down there. And Kissimmee has one of the biggest rodeos in the United States, which is in Osceola County, just south of Disney World. So Florida cracker came from the cracking of the whip.
The crack of the whip.
The crack of the whip. Not for people, for cows. Let's be very clear here, right? There's nothing to do with slavery. So
yes, and the I have a cousin, Buzz, over in D-Land, who has 200 head of cattle, and so it's like this is old school. And my mom went to DeLand High School back in '52. She graduated, I think. So I mean, we have Florida roots going back to basically World War II, which is I remember like the stories people like. I tell my son, because my son was born here in Daytona also, and I don't know if you're familiar with Daytona, but like I remember dirt roads and like 2-lane. Like, people would say this is out of town. That's like in the middle of nowhere, and now it's like in the middle of the town because the town has grown so far. People don't know how much growth has occurred in the last 50 years here. It's insane.
It's a lot. So essentially, and by the way, a great thing to do with cows is this is a Florida grift, but what you do is, because there's all this land that's being developed in Florida. So what you do is, you get a bunch of cows, right? And you rent them out to developers.
Right.
Because if you place a certain number of cows on your property, it can vary county to county, but if you place them on property, it becomes agricultural land and the taxes drop through the roof, right? Versus
that's why if you drive through Florida and you're going through the city, and then you'll see a big empty lot and there'll be a couple cows on it.
A couple cows. It's like a handful of cows. It's like that is the statutory minimum amount of cows on that property to maintain it as agricultural land. In fact, I'm going to be honest with you guys. So to be 100% honest with you guys, I can now say that is what happened with all this Universal property that will become the new theme park. Right? The Epic Universe theme park. So all this property I was showing you earlier, when you drove by this on Universal Boulevard, right, you saw cows on this property. Yeah, that's because we were taking advantage of that exemption. By the way,
wait, that's not, you weren't taking advantage.
No.
It was agricultural property.
Completely legal, and it was being used for agricultural purposes. There was no law. Laws were, let me be very clear. This is 100% above board. It just, it sounds bad, right?
I got a great story.
And everybody does it.
I got a great story. I had a friend who passed away, Stan, who developed the property that I'm on. Actually, he was a big lander, an old cracker, Florida cracker. A lot of these were just cattle farmers, and then Florida got big, and they developed their land. And he had all this property. Well, he was actually a very good developer. He was a very professional, and he had all the cows, right? And he wanted a permit to develop his land. Right. And of course, there were people. We don't want any growth. And so they would protest, and they were like protesting this lady that was like organizing the protest to go and oppose his zoning conversion from agriculture to city, right? And his property was right on the corner of a major intersection. She drove by it every day. So what he did is one day he says, well, okay, it's agricultural then. And he slaughtered a hog and put him up on a big thing and slaughtered the hog right in the middle, right by the public byway. It's like, well, it's agricultural land. This is my new slaughterhouse.
I mean, if you're allowed to do it, you're allowed to do it. I mean, look, I'll put it. I mean, Nancy's right here. If you're not ready to build, why not use it for agriculture in the interim? Yeah, sure. Exactly. Like you're actually using the land. Maybe you're not using it with the maximum intensity of agriculture, but it's getting some useful benefit, right? It's not just sitting with a bunch of weeds and empty lots.
Well, it's also, there's like, it's another one that we have, because I did this when I'm back. This is so like throwbacks, Gosney throwback property lawyer. They'd have tree farms. It's like, well, what kind of trees are you growing? You're growing pine trees, and slash pines are useless, right? And it's like the guy's had his property for 30 years and has never gotten a crop of slash pines because just when they start getting there, the wildfires go and wipe them all out. And it's like he's had his property 30 years, hasn't taken one board foot of lumber off it, but it's like it's a tree farm,
Yeah, it's a tree farm. Sorry, I saw a funny comment here in the chat. I don't know if I can resuscitate it. Oh yeah, okay, here. Uncivil law. I'm sorry, there are no Latina farms. I'm sorry. You have to. You cannot farm them. That is not something we do. But I love you, brother. I love you. Let's get these other ones here. Little Rock, give me another 20. Thank you so much, Little Rock. Appreciate you supporting the channel. It's been great to have you guys supporting this. Helps me do these things online and keep doing what I do for you guys. And then followed up with a $10. I have a BSMS in electrical computer engineering. Oh, awesome. By the way, because you have that and you went to law school, that allowed you into the patent law. So he said, I tried patent law, a lot of money, but I hated it. I went to Charlotte Law School before it shut down. Oh man, Charlotte Law School, big issues there. So that was one of those. They're actually owned by the same people. I think it was the same parent company, the same holding company that I think they own the Florida Coastal.
Right, Florida Coastal. They're just milking.
You smiled over there. I mean, do you have any thoughts about that? I mean, just I want to get your opinion. I once dated a girl who was a public defender and went to Florida Coastal. She was smart, but I have some feelings.
Well, the students that go there, I mean, we have a lot of Florida Coastal grads in our office, and they're good people and they're good lawyers.
They're good people.
The school is just raping them. The school is right.
The school is bending them over backwards, charging them more than a private school. For example, it's costs people more to go to Florida Coastal than it does to go to University of Miami or even like a Harvard, right?
Because what they're, and I don't really quite understand how they choose this, right? But the equation is, if we can fight off the ABA for another year,
yes,
then then our profit margin, we're making a 30% profit margin. We can do that 2 years. That's 60% return on investment. So we got to keep fighting to keep it open. So I don't even know. They've had.
And here's what they do too. Here's what they do too to milk the accreditation. And this is a lot of schools do this. This is the secret sauce. They they put their students that will fail the bar or not take the bar on the payroll, and they pay them for like 11 months, and that clears that inspection window for the ABA, so it counts as employed even though it's self-employed. And I think, by the way, that should be fully disclosed. How many are employed and then employed by the university, right?
But I think our students, the students from Florida Coastal, I haven't really seen. I mean, I don't.
But think the good students would get into another law school that is.
I know that you think dubious. That, but it's not the case. That there are a lot of people that go there, and they're good lawyers. I don't quite know why they would choose it. And maybe I need to talk to a few of them and say, why did you choose? Because a lot of it's geography. Because there's nobody. They're feeding Jacksonville, and Jacksonville doesn't have any law schools around, and they got to work, and they do the night program and all this. So. I don't know, but it's definitely not the top tier school in Florida.
No, it is not. I mean, although they do have a very good moot court and trial team, which, by the way, I was on both, and I was always happy when we beat them because they were so anal about it. They had multiple coaches, whatever else. We just coached ourselves. We were self-coached. So like the upperclassmen coached the underclassmen. We didn't have grown adults that were writing our briefs for us. Yes, they're not allowed to do that, but we all know they're doing that, right? And telling us what to say all throughout. It was kind of ridiculous. But anyways, still had fun doing that. Moot court was really fun.
I wish that, like, somebody said JU is doing a University of Law School. They should be bought by a public school like University of North Florida. University of North Florida is an excellent school. People don't, I mean, my wife got her master's degree from there, and it's an excellent school. Swoop. So, you have to. All right.
There you go. Legal layman says for $10 says, howdy, gents. How are you two doing? I'm doing good. Happy to catch a live stream quickly. Small promo. Going to do readings of the Federalist Papers soon tomorrow. Good evening, you two. Hang loose. Guys, this is the best way to promote yourself is to drop a super chat. So go check out Legal Layman. Go check out that channel. Go check out the Federalist Papers. It's so important we look back at what our country is based upon, because unless we look back at our foundation, what do we have as a country if we abandon the bedrock of what this country is founded upon? We really don't have a lot of shared principles as a country, except for when you look back at the founding of the country, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. That's principle to our culture as Americans that binds us together, regardless of race, creed, motto, whatever else, is those founding documents. So check that out. I think that's very important information.
Right, and I'll just put a plug in for old Mr. Branca that the constitutional law professor that we've recruited is Linda Deno out of University of Arizona, who is an expert on the Federalist Papers and on the constitutional founding of this country. It's going to be a master class on con law. I think lawyers should take it. But I know that lawyers, they get all this free education. Like, I know everything. I got a law degree.
Yeah.
But it's going to be top. I am going to actually audit that class because she was my dream con law professor. And she said, yes, I couldn't believe it. She is brilliant. I don't know if you know Powerline blog with Steve Hayward. Yeah, and she is in there with Steve Hayward. They do something called 3 Whiskey Happy Hour under the name Lucretia. And she is a brilliant, she's been there 25 years, dean at the University of Arizona, has an incredible intellect. She's one of those people that intimidates you. It's like, okay, you're smarter than me. I get it. Let me listen.
Yep. There you go. Crusader Saracen for $2 says, when I go to Florida, we should get a Cubano together. Absolutely. Let me know. I'll tell you guys when I'm down. I did see the shout out. It's not a super chat, but I do want to star this because I did see Barnes give me a shout out. Yeah, I messaged Viva and I got a message Barnes too as well, saying, hey, I'm happy to come on and talk with those guys, but appreciate the shout outs, appreciate the love everybody's been giving me and acknowledging on this issue. Because
isn't it great though? How did this gift get given?
Well, here's the thing, Steve, and people who know me here know that I don't say that I'm a subject matter expert on things I'm not a subject matter expert on. I'll comment. I'll give you my opinion. I have no shame giving you my opinion.
Usually you're just getting by on your looks.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just getting by on the swoop and the and the flex. But that being said, I'm just giving, most of what I give is my take as an attorney who has, is looking at it from a constitutional standpoint, giving my take, giving a business take, giving a wider perspective. But this is actually my subject area. And it's so random. I just was thinking about that. I'm like, what were the chances of this coming up? It is literally zero because there's usually no litigation in this area of law. It's very uncontroversial. It's just like kind of going on in the background. Your pipes and your pavement are getting laid, right? It's only now that this comes out. And I'm like, what the fuck are these people talking about? They know absolutely nothing about
I know.
This area.
You are really anybody. You are just in the sun because this is your moment in time. Yeah. And I will say, I did civil litigation. I did real property litigation, probate litigation. When I hear you speak on this, you know exactly what you're talking about. You are right in the middle of it. And you're the kind of guy, like if I'd be on the litigator side, I'd be saying, okay, now Andrew, So tell me, explain this to me so I can translate it for the
Yes.
jury, right?
And by the way, that's what I did. So I had litigators and I would sit in their office and explain it, and they would go translate it whenever we had lawsuits or issues or everything else. And I was like, look, I don't want to deal with this filing bullshit. I don't want to deal with the hearings. I just want to sit back and make money and, do my own thing. But I actually did go to a lot of public hearings, but those are different, right? Speaking in front of county boards, city boards, special districts, that's different. I've been watching the Central Florida Tourism District videos. They actually have their own YouTube channel now. And it triggers me back to my days as district council, where I would have old people walking up being like, my lawn's grass is too long and this is your responsibility. I'm like, sir, we're a government. We don't pay for your fucking private grass. Please get the hell out of here.
But sure, that's exactly how you said it too.
No, I said it very politely. I'm like, sir, that is not a governmental function. That is something that is private. You need to arrange that with a private service distributor. If you'd like a recommendation, our manager can give you that. Of course, I volunteer someone else's labor. That's the key point there. It's the key point there. Yeah, and people would ask me this all the time because this is how this issue came up with the covenants. So I would represent these districts. And we'd have the HOA that would say, for example, in Celebration, I'll use Celebration, for example. The Celebration Homeowners Association has very specific aesthetic guidelines.
Oh, you think?
And they have very specific signage. That's a legacy from Disney and the Celebration Company and their covenants. They have very specific signage. They would always try to force us as the government to adopt their signage. And I repeatedly had these fights with Disney, with these people, specifically Reedy Creek Disney, saying, F you, we are a government. We do not have to follow your aesthetic guidelines. We don't have to make it look all Mickey and magical. We need to put up a sign. It needs to say the road's name. That's about it. Get bent. And
I take a little pixie dust and throw it up there and make it happen.
I had to drop that so many times. It was drilled into my head. So to me, this is common sense. This is like established Florida law. It's not even up for debate.
Well, but the property law is the oldest law there is. Right. It's older than criminal law.
Well, and it's essential to capitalism. Without that, it's nothing.
It was way before capitalism. We're talking Magna Carta. Magna Carta was because the dirt people wanted to fight for their dirt against the king. It had nothing to do with crime and the scum, right? It was like property. It's like, we got to talk real stuff, which is real property. Real property, baby.
IWD said FIU isn't that bad unless you're affiliated with their psych people. Then it's even carnage. Unfortunately, I was not. I did religious studies and political science was my bachelor. So I was safe.
They had the whole engineering debacle with the collapsed.
That was after I left, and some heads rolled for that one. Let's just say that.
It's not exactly an endorsement for their engineering school.
No, not at all. Sitting in Chief says, big theme park guy here. Awesome. Used to be a Disney member. Then they jacked the prices 50%. Universal, SeaWorld, and Fun Spot are superior. I go there now. Yeah, Fun Spot's great. That's underrated. Fun Spot, very underrated.
I don't even know Fun Spot.
That it's on iDrive. It's by iDrive.
Okay.
It's got a lot of
I love SeaWorld. SeaWorld's underrated. It's so much more relaxing. But I haven't been to any of the parks.
And there's so much more than just they built out the roller coasters and everything else. It's so much more than just the whale. Because everyone thinks of it from like Blackfish.
I like the whale. You know what? Here, let me give a couple plugs for some underdeveloped Florida. If you want to be a real Florida man, here's some suggestions. Silver Springs.
Oh, yes.
St. Augustine Alligator Farm. Freaking awesome. You got to go to St. Augustine Alligator Farm.
Well, in Crystal Springs, swimming with the manatees, one of the only few places you can swim with them.
And just the springs, the real Florida people.
I go to Guinea.
We don't go to. We go to this. Well, you go to.
I went when I went to UF. Juniper. When I went to UF,
yeah, Juniper Run. You go down on a canoe through the springs. We have.
Well, my thing was drinking, and we put a cooler in the middle, right? We float a cooler in the middle of a tube.
So you're just a college kid.
Yeah,
I'm talking crackers. You got to get airboats and beer and, go down the springs. We have 36 springs that are level 1 springs, which put out like 10,000 gallons a minute of fresh water. And you got to go swim. It's beautiful. Have a
absolutely
steak,
gorgeous.
Grill it.
Great. Little Rock says, have Florida changed the rules so I can transfer in on motion? I would move to Florida tomorrow if I didn't have to.
That's why they're not going to do it.
And that's why they gatekeep, because you know what would happen, and Steve can confirm this. the first thing that would happen if they opened it up reciprocity is all those retired lawyers would be doing all the wills, trusts, and estates. Because remember, you can pretty much be a lawyer till you're dead, right? All you need is like a computer and some paper, and you can become a lawyer. And there's so many retired lawyers there that would just do the work to make the extra buck. It would drive wages down. It would be horrible for Florida. So
Florida is very parochial. They don't, you don't cite anything but Florida law in your briefs because, like, what's this Georgia law? It's like, and the words never cite California law.
Hell no. Are you kidding me? I mean, Georgia law is like up there, but with bad, right? You're better to skip over to South Carolina. But California, are you kidding me? Deha, what's up, brother? Says, really enjoy education about Disney DeSantis, land use on the map, and being received. Yeah, awesome. Awesome.
Well, and welcome. Thank you. Nice
I'm loving giving you guys this inside scoop. I actually haven't talked about that universal stuff, but actually I used to do panels at conventions like Comic-Cons and stuff like that. And I actually was asked to speak on the development of the Universal theme park. I did that a while back because that's once again, something I can now speak on because it's public. It's been announced. It's not secret. So it does no damage to my client to talk about any of this. And, everything that was done publicly. So there's no, damage there, or it's subject to a public records request. So you could request it if you ask somebody for those emails. You said, I want the emails related to this issue. You'd find them. Sitting in chief, I need to have a drink with Steve next time I'm in Florida. There's a Falcon Heavy launch. I want to see. Spend a week in Volcano Bay. Volcano Bay, really, really fun. I went there. My firm did an event there. Really awesomely fun. I felt like on the 4-person tube ride, I was going to fly up that wall, but it was insanely fun. I would 100% go back to Volcano Bay. Really loved it.
And the Falcon Heavy launches. I mean, actually, I watch. I still love watching the launches. And I just go outside go right in front of my driveway and see the launch. The last night's Falcon Heavy was pretty cool.
I mean, you're a Florida guy, so you saw the space shuttles back in the day, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I remember when it exploded. And I was at Stetson undergrad, and actually my friend who became the Disney account executive her father was I think involved with Morton Thiokol, like on the board of directors of Morton Thiokol, which was involved with the O-ring disaster. And I remember walking, and it was really cold that day. It was brisk and clear. And I read, because we could see the shuttle going off from DeLand. And I remember that the plume looked strange. It was like this and then it like that. And I was like, that's really weird. And I was walking to see my friend. I went in there and it was like death. I mean, everything was quiet. It's like the space shuttle exploded, and she was really torn up because her family was involved in the building of it. And I'll never forget. That was one of those moments that's etched in my brain.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm sorry, guys, I got this cough here that I'm still.
Kennedy Space Center. Kennedy Space Center is phenomenal.
Oh, that is one of my favorite things to do. And honestly, if somebody comes to Florida, I'm like, let's come to the Space Center, because it's our one thing, right? Like, there's not another space center like that in the United States. You can
the Saturn V. Have you seen the Saturn V and the shuttle exhibits?
Yes, I've seen both. I've seen both. I mean, I've been there probably 32 times. One of the girls I dated in Orlando was the events coordinator for that. So I actually got to meet a bunch of the astronauts and stuff like that, and go to those events.
Way back when, I have a picture somewhere. One of these days I'll show some pictures. In 1976, they painted the VAB with the flag and the star, and that was back. And I actually got to go inside the VAB. Whoops.
Yeah, that was my water. It's
drink.
Okay. It's on the floor. Yeah.
And so, I actually got to walk in. Now you can't go near it. All the high security, but I actually got to walk around the VAB and see the rockets. It was really cool. And I was a little kid. I guess I was 9 years old on that day. That was pretty cool. Yeah, the Kennedy Space Center. Forget the theme parks. Go to Silver Springs. Go to St. Augustine. Go to the Alligator Farm. Go to KSC.
I don't know. Universal's pretty cool. If you haven't seen, like, if you're a nerd, which a lot of millennials are, whatever, and you like Harry Potter and you want to see that. Like, that is actually still, I will tell you right now, I have adults, like people my age, that will still go to the Harry Potter World, Universal, to this day, because it harkens back and it's true to the original. That's where Disney fucked up. They didn't just make it like, hey, we're going to bring this book to life. We're going to bring the original life. That's all they had to do. That's why Harry Potter World prints money, because it aligns with your expectations. Disney's world, Star Wars world, subverts them. It gives you this image. You're like, this isn't Star Wars. This is some other weird thing. This is like some simulacrum. It's like the cheap version. It's like, remember like Coke and like Rite Aid, right?
Yeah,
It's the Rite Aid, right?
Okay.
And it just doesn't feel
It
right. I
says
know,
cola.
yeah, cola, Dr. Thunder. Some people, by the way, some people like the knockoffs, right? And they get their own appeal, but this thing has no appeal. By the way, I got to shout this out. 50 gifts from Little Rock. Thank you so much. Make sure, guys, you have it set to enable those gifts on the channel so you get that, so you become part of the replay gang.
You know who else is in it? Can I make a shout out to your chat?
Appreciate you.
One of your Wrenches mods is Danielle, who's my mentoree, and she's right outside Orlando too.
Oh,
did you know that? Yeah, she's right there. She's like 30 minutes outside of downtown Orlando. So hi Danielle.
Okay, cool. I don't know if you were talking about the same Danielle, because this one's usually in Texas, but there may be more than one Danielle. But
I don't know. Danielle, is that you, or is it? Are you my mentoree, or is this wrong Danielle?
Wrong Danielle. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Texas.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay.
Anyways, guys, yes, enable gift memberships. Go to the top corner, enable it, and you'll be able to receive those. And welcome to everybody.
Can I do it? Where do I do it? I want to do it.
You got to do it in the corner. It's like it's up in the right corner. Enable gift membership of the chat, not StreamYard. You can't do it from StreamYard.
Oh, okay.
So appreciate that. Little Rock. In Philosopher Thieves, I had a full scholarship. My buddies owe $360,000 for a law degree. They would let students start from scratch if they fail out the first year. They were shut down for fraud and just like a huge lawsuit. This is to me, and this is the thing I hated, Steve. This is unconscionable. And the students they let in, honestly, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not trying to be an asshole. The great public defenders, right? Mm-hmm. But they will never pay off those loans other than doing the public forgiveness program.
Well, yes, and I'm going to make a plug because we have the bus public defenders.
Is it 20 years?
No, it's 10.
Okay,
so
10 years.
If you come to work for our office, we have the best public defender's office in all of Florida, and I'm not joking. 7th Circuit. Okay. I will train you. We have a training team. We have some of the best attorneys around.
I'm going to solo view you here for this because you're shilling.
Okay, so I'm going to shill. If you're a lawyer and you've got $360,000 in debt, come and work for the public defender's office in the 7th Circuit of Florida. And we will, if you work for us for 10 years, your debts will be forgiven. Your federal loans are wiped out. I had a friend of mine, who had $260,000 in law schools, and he worked for us for 10 years. And on 10 year day plus one, he went into private practice. All his loans were forgiven because there's a public loan forgiveness. Now, don't convert those public loans into private loans. Don't do that. But if you, it's a great benefit for working for the state, and you get the best training around. It's fun. We have some fun, and we have a great team. We're supportive. It's the best law practice around. So 7th Circuit, if you go to stevegosney.com, send me an email if you're in the situation where you want to come work with us. How's that?
There you go. That's a great pitch there. You're good at these pitches.
You think?
Crusader, very good. Crusader Saracen sent me a buck on locals, which says, been a while since I could catch a stream. Schoolwork, hospitals has been tough. Glad to watch this. Mr. Gosney is always a hoot. Andrew too, I guess, maybe. Well,
who is that? Who is that? I didn't see it.
That is Crusader Saracen. Crusader Saracen for $1. Fuck you too. Crusader Saracen. Also, I love you. Pacho Villa says, could CFTOD stop the retheme of Splash Mountain? No, that's long since been approved. That's fine. It's not, by the way, that's the type of thing that's internal in a development. As long as you're not changing an intensity, it's fine. And that's not changing really a height or intensity. So that's not something they would really have anything over. The only thing might be like a permit, right? If they had to get a permit from RCID, but it doesn't seem like they would. So I don't think they could stop the retheme, even if they wanted to, unfortunately, right?
Well, but that's a business thing. I mean, but I love the idea of.
And by the way, I'm not for that either. I'm not for government getting in there. I'm for less regulation, right? I am for less regulation.
No, one of the reasons I'm celebrating, because I want to see Disney be treated just like every other business.
Yes.
And that it's just like Universal, just like Legoland, just like all the other theme parks. Why are they so special? They have done. They're not. So let's just let it level playing field. That seems fair to me.
Very much so. Very much so. Xander's Rant says, Steve, hope audiobook comes before you go dark again.
I may be going. I don't know. I'm packing it in. I've been being like on everything because.
And let me tell you, Steve is like the hardest worker in the room. He always is grinding. So I'm always impressed at how much he's able to get out.
Well, I appreciate that. Yes, I've got an audiobook coming out of Prepare, and it's being engineered. I have a professional engineer, so I'm going to do it right for you. I don't want to just shill. I want to give it the best that I can. So it'll be coming out soon.
Awesome. Thank you for the super sticker, KHM. Sitting in Chiefs at Itchituckney. Yes, I love Itchituckney. And the Blue Hole's my jam. I actually got my diving certification at the Blue Hole.
I dove. I dove at was it DeLeon Springs? Do you know DeLeon Springs?
There as well. Yes, I dove there as well. That was one where I got my you do two. So I did the first one there and the second one at the Blue Hole.
Yeah.
IWD says, I don't know if it's just Florida, HOAs, or at least in South Florida, act like a bunch of mafias run by barren wound lefty Karens, had 3 rentals and gated comps, pawn them off on a carpetbagger, no moss. No, seriously, IWD, that's the problem. And that's why I say, imagine the precedent of a bunch of Karens telling government what to do. That would be a hellscape on earth. You would not want that.
The best, if you want to understand what these are about, watch Seinfeld, and like when they go down, it's Del Boca Vista, and it's like, Marty, you missed the early bird. You gotta get like that's freaking homeowners association law right there in a nutshell.
Yeah, that is 100% it. Been there, done that. Says, isn't the true Florida Man experience held at the Broward County Jail? That is part of the Florida experience. And Little Rock says for another 5, says the problem is only about 10 to 15% of the graduates pass the bar. Ooh. Therefore, they cannot take advantage of public. This is the issue. They don't pass the bar, right? We actually had one in Florida that was decertified. I think it was Barry, right? That got dropped off, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. They're back on. I'm not
Are they
sure.
back on? They may have popped back into compliance, but they were getting into trouble because they were so low.
Oh, yeah. In fact, we have a lawyer. What happened was they accepted. I actually looked at Barry when I was going to go to school and decided against it because they were saying, we're going to get accredited. And I'm like, no.
We promise.
We promise. But they brought in a bunch of people and they went them through the 3 years and they didn't meet their goals. And then so they had a whole bag of lawyers who couldn't sit for the bar. And then eventually they did get accredited, but then you had these people that were sort of in this limbo zone, and it took an act of the legislature to allow them to sit for the bar because they were not accredited when they graduated. It was a tough, and one of our attorneys was in that position. She's excellent. It's what you get out of it. A lot of it, I mean, there's levels.
And once again, if you're willing to put in the work, that's fine, right? And there are people putting in the work, but my problem is the predatory practices that says, hey, come to law school, you're going to make $200,000 a year. And I'm just going to be honest with you.
Lie.
It's a fucking lie. Like when they put the statistic that the average wage is $180,000, that is a dirty, nasty lie. I would say in my class, Steve, the average wage was probably more like 50 or 60 because what you did was you split the public defenders and state attorneys, which at my time were getting paid in the 30s, I believe. Right. And once again, I'm talking $30,000, $32,000, something like that. They're being paid around that with maybe the private practice folks that are getting paid 80 or 90 or 100. Right. Like if you're really maybe. And by the way, but
to get that, you've got to bust your hump.
I'm at the number 1 law school, right, in Florida, right, and we're talking about going to a big law firm for like a Greenberg or a White and Case or something like that, right? You're going to a larger law firm. Very, very rare that someone busts into 6 figures as a first-year associate.
Well, like I applied to Rumberger's firm, in Winter Park, and it's like. They take the blue bloods. I didn't know about the blue bloods until I went to Washington and Lee. And then I'm like, oh, your daddy is the executive at American Express. Oh, you've got a job lined up as soon as you get out, right? And they're flying in their planes on spring break to go to their third home in Bahamas, and I'm like, that's a different level. I don't know about that, like
that's on a whole different level. By the way, also, I forgot to say, Jordy, thank you so much for the 50 gift memberships. Appreciate you giving out those memberships. Just make sure everybody, you've got them enabled in order to receive them. But thank you guys. Really helps support the channel. And we've busted past 300. I think we're on the way to probably 400 members at this point. So appreciate y'all helping everybody go green in the chat. I like green. It's the color of money and membership. So those are the type of M&Ms I like. Also, I'm preferential to peanut M&Ms. So let's got one more here from Hunch. I'll be back in Fort Myers area for work in the next couple weeks. Steve, I have to grab a drink with you. Well,
Absolutely.
I mean, he's not in Fort Myers, but if you swing towards that, you know.
If you're in Daytona, send me an email and we'll go have lunch or something. I do have lunch breaks. Although lately I've been doing my lunch breaks at my desk. Like I was on Megan Fox's channel today.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you got time? I'm like, well, I got my lunch break.
Yeah. And that's what I'll see like Vices do. He'll be in the office and I'll pop it on and I'll be like, man, this guy's really doing double duty here.
Yeah.
ITBD, it's a great one. If law degrees paid so well, the best houses in Pinecrest wouldn't be owned by corrupt diplomats, contractors, plumbers, welders, mail strippers, and Venezuelan, diplomats. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's insane. By the way, the money in Pinecrest is absolutely stupid. That's where I've gotten all of my tickets, my running red light tickets or stop sign tickets or whatever the hell it was all in Pinecrest because they were waiting to see you stop for exactly 3 seconds and they count it, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's Daytona Beach.
The 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. I'm like, are you
Daytona Beach Shores A1A goes into like 6 lanes, and it's like, oh wow, look at this, and it's like the speed limit drops to 35. And so everybody's like, oh, look, big stroke.
Which should be wrong. It's like, going to 6 lanes and dropping the speed limit. Come on. We all know what that does. That's what he calls speed trap. There was that one town in between UF and Jacksonville, Gainesville and Jacksonville, that their entire town was funded by revenue from the police department.
All the gators going home.
Yep. Christina Saracen, they got any good Cubanos in Daytona?
Are you talking about the cigar or the
Cuban food? Cuban food, probably.
Oh, Cuban food. I don't. That's a good question. We have a big Greek community here, and we have the big Greek Orthodox Church.
Florida, other than I think one other place, and Australia has like the highest concentration of Greeks.
Well, over in what is it? The sponge diving, Tarpon Springs. Tarpon Springs is really nice. If you go down there, there's some great seafood restaurants in Tarpon Springs.
And I love this comment earlier from Florida Meth Gator. I saved it. This stream feels like I'm sitting with my family just talking about the stuff we do. It's bizarre. That's what happens when Florida men get together. We just talk about Florida stuff.
Yeah, this is Florida. This is what we talk about. This is
Florida 101.
We're just this male Florida bonding right here.
Just good old boy bonding. It's not the good old boys in Florida bond. And we're like, all right, you're in. Also, welcome to everybody coming from Aussie Overloud. Shout out to Hayden, one of the few Australians I actually enjoy. So that being said, let's get to this because this is something I want to ask about the judges. So in the federal suit, we now had a change of judge. Okay. So Disney's lawsuit against Governor Ron DeSantis has a change. Now, this is the federal case, to be very clear. This is not the state case.
Who's the judge?
So I don't know if they've assigned it yet, but apparently U.S. Magistrate Judge Martin Fitzpatrick claims the judge was related in a third degree to someone employed by one of the parties in the lawsuit as the reason for stepping down. So the previously assigned judge.
I'm fascinated because I actually know a federal judge over in Orlando, and I'm wondering if he might get the case. I could tell. I could give you some inside scoop on it if
Fitzpatrick recused himself, and that was the Obama appointee. So people were worried about the Obama appointees kind of coming in and swinging this. So that's been dumped. Now in Orlando, the case is with Kim Beamer, the state case. So this is the state filing. Okay. I don't know if you know about Denise Kim Beamer.
Boy, that rings a bell.
Yeah, she does a lot of the complex business litigation. Actually, let me pull her photo up because I know you might be more familiar when you see a face, right? But she does a lot of the complex business litigation. So a lot of times you will get her on the cases over here. Here's Kim. She was a associate administrative court judge. Also did county criminal at one point.
Circuit. No, that's not county criminal. That's circuit criminal. So I'll probably had some appeals from her courtroom because 19 to 20 I was doing criminal appeals in Orange County. So
awesome.
I think I've done a few cases with her. Let me see her gator. Let's say gators.
A picture. I'll zoom in.
Look here. Go back up. She's a Barry University School of Law.
Barry School of Law and University of Florida. Right.
Yeah.
Here's her picture. So I don't know if she looks more familiar to you.
Well, no, I don't deal. I just deal with paper. You don't
deal with. Yeah, I'm more of I was a handshake guy, so I remember people's faces. I'm like, I've seen this motherfucker, right? You know, because I went to all the meetings and everything else. And by the way, I met her at circuit events. You know, we've talked. I guess it's not a huge secret that I used to work with. The one I told you, privately, but I used to work with the husband of a current Supreme Court of Florida judge. So like it's a small world. Yeah. I shake a lot of hands. I get in there. And I'll tell you, I think
this is Florida is small town politics.
I think we can say this safely. We could definitely say this safely. There's a lot of politics to judicial nominations. I think that's very fair to say. It's very neutral to say.
Did I send you in the background some of the connections? Oh, you do. Yes. I told you. Some of the connections.
So Florida is a lot of inside baseball, just so you know, for judicial nominations and everything else.
Oh my God, it's sick. And I will tell you, I should be on the inside. I think I deserve to be on the inside, but
here's and by the way, Steve Gosney is the best example of meritocracy versus sort of like nepotism. Like he's a skilled guy, a knowledgeable guy, but he's not in the inside, he's not in the inside track, right? And that's the whole thing with this, the sometimes the most skilled people get cut out for political purposes.
Well, I will tell you, my dad had a law firm in Daytona for 40 years. He hired out of law school 5 different people that became judges in our circuit. So my dad hired 5 judges in our circuit. And I'm on the outside. How does that work? I don't know.
Right. You're still on the outside.
I'm still on the outside.
You're still on the outside looking in. What was that? Was that a Slipknot song? Anyways, so let me ask you this, because you've seen a lot of cases, and this is something I want to get to. Procedurally, have you ever seen a case like this where you've got now a federal case and an underlying state case that kind of the state case needs to be resolved first? Have you seen this like split where there's like a state issue and a federal issue and both have to be resolved, and how that plays out? Have you seen that in your history in Florida?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So what would typically happen? Do you normally see the federal courts like deferring to the state court? Okay.
Yeah, that's what they're going to do. I think there'll be a motion to stay by the district in the federal court saying that this is a dispositive motion. It's a declaratory judgment. So they're seeking a declaration from the courts as to the status of the law. And
Florida law.
Yes, Florida law. And that's a complete state issue. And until that is resolved, it moots the federal issue. So there'll be a motion in the federal court, and I think it'll probably be granted because the federal courts don't want to waste their time. They're lifetime appointments. They want to go golfing. So they'll grant that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that this issue, the state issue, if it comes out against Disney, their case is done. Like they have no standing, right? They're done.
Right.
Their only grounds come from that. The only potential standing comes from them alleging that these development agreements and the nullification of these development agreements hurts them. I would actually say, by the way, that they've been around for such a short period of time and they haven't gained any benefit, right? They haven't been denied, right, access to those development rights. So I would almost say their damages are illusory, but that's
so far down the line.
That's so far.
You have to state a cause of action before you can get damages.
Exactly. So like, there's so many guys. This is why I've been doing so many Disney videos. I seem like a madman, but
keep doing them. This is so wonderful.
So many holes in this argument that I'm like, guys, all these experts who are saying they know what to talk about, they don't, because they don't see any of these holes in the argument. And the fact that all they say is First Amendment shows you this is just a talking point that is an empty, hollow echo chamber, which they know nothing about. And just because
do you remember when all this stuff hit the fan, and I was dealing with some press locally and got into it with them, because the talking point at that time was, oh, we're all going to be on the hook for $2 billion in bonds, right? And just as a matter, and it's like that was, oh my God, we don't want to do that because we're spending money. Floridians don't want to part with their tax dollars. But I'm like, well, wait a second now. You've got bonds that affect this district. If the obligation is now on the state, they'll just raise the taxes on the property owners in their district, which is Disney. So who cares? I mean, that's like a complete pass-through, right? I'm like, that doesn't affect me at all. But that was a talking point, and it's just disappeared.
Yep. Absolutely poof. And by the way, the funny thing was, and about this case, which I found is hilarious, in the beginning, everyone was screaming about the bond debt and like, oh my God, the bond debt, we're going to have to pay the bond debt. And then all of a sudden they strategically forget about that now. They're like, wait a second, what? And I'm like, no, that's still out there. That $1 billion is still floating out there in a massive, massive, massive issue.
But if it comes down, just pass the tax. Like the obligation now rests with the new entity. Well, the new entity raises the taxes on the property owners within its jurisdiction, which is Disney.
Disney, right? So it's like I'm taxing. Disney is going to get taxed to pay for its own litigation. Can you imagine that? But like that's how it's going to work. Disney is going to be paying for the council, right? Not just Disney, right? All property owners within the district. But that's the duty. The duty of the district is to defend the district. And if they have to raise taxes to do that, they have to raise taxes to do that. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. IWD says, as Cubans say, comiendo mierda con amigos.
Hey, shout out to Justice Labarga, a Cuban immigrant who is the best justice.
I also dated his daughter.
Really?
Yeah.
I think he's the best justice. He should be on the U.S. Supreme Court.
He's a cool guy. I really like him a lot. He probably doesn't like me anymore, though. But that being said, did you have
moving along?
Moving along, did you have any impression of Justice Lawson? Because Justice Lawson is actually the one who filed this suit in state court. So if you go down here, let me go to the SIG block, which is on page 30. But you have here the district's counsel. And their counsel, they hired Alan Lawson, who is a former Florida Supreme Court judge. So I don't know if you had any feelings or thoughts about Alan Lawson.
I'm going to be orally arguing before the 5th coming in June.
Really?
Yes. In fact, I'm practicing before the Florida Supreme Court and all of these judges.
Man, you are so in this. You are so like inside of baseball here right now. And look, I understand there's some things, you can and can't say. But that being said, I'll just say this, and I'll put this out here, is that I think that they chose, I mean, if I'm stacking up the choices for Disney's counsel versus the district's counsel, the district did the right thing. Picking the former Supreme Court judge for the state law case, yeah, that's looking a lot better than hiring New York, DC, and California attorneys, and then just they're pro hoc viced in, right?
But this is the problem. And we're complaining, we're saying how stupid Disney is. But the thing is Disney is serving its leadership. These big law firms are big law, and they are basically vipers or vampires sucking the blood out of this corpse of Disney and dragging they're making millions and millions in legal fees. They don't care if they lose or win. They're going to bill Disney through the nose, and they don't care.
And by the way, a lot of the boards require that they hire these white glove firms, right? These top tier white glove, white shoe, whatever, right? They hire these top tier firms. They require that. They wouldn't allow them to hire what is perceived as a local yokel, but the local yokel has the subject matter expertise, right? That's the problem.
They also know the judge. You know what they say? A good lawyer knows the judge.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you about the proclivities of every judge in my circuit. And, it's like that knowledge is pretty important.
Very important. Very important. Like you can tell he knows, but he's not going to talk about it.
And I will tell you, out of town lawyers and out of state lawyers do not fly well in Florida courts.
Nope. There's a
I'm just telling you, I don't. You ain't from around here, buddy. You ain't from around here.
Yep.
Are you lost?
Thank you for the $50 super sticker. Appreciate you. Appreciate that support in the chat. Thank you so much. Little Rock says, did you see the Valuetainment offered Tucker $100 million today? A board position and president position. Whoa. PBD announced, Patrick Bet-David announced on Megan Kelly Show. Wow, that's insane.
Yes,
that is insane.
And I actually retweeted this. I retweeted this and said I'd do it for half the price.
Oh, well, they should definitely call you.
Yeah, I think so.
It's more economy there.
They're missing the opportunity that's right in front
That's
of them.
a big opportunity, the big Gauze opportunity. But if you don't want to miss the Gauze opportunity, go over to stevegosney.com and get some of his books. Prepare the Handbook for Individual Freedom and Ideas and Answers in the Law. Get all of those.
All of them. The two of those, right?
Yeah, for the low price of 33,000 Korean won.
Oh, that's cool. It translates.
It automatically translates. Yes.
Well, and it's also available in ebook for a slightly reduced price.
Awesome. And then IWD says, on topic of Florida institutions and self-eating, apparently the U is turning their entire academic infrastructure over to University Health for control administration filed with the old Jackson Health gang. There's so much corrupt stuff going on with that. I had a friend who worked in the IRC office at the University of Miami. It was absolutely, once again, good old boy network, handshakes, dollar bills. The U has, and by the way, University of Miami, the U has always been insanely corrupt. They've only just been caught a couple times, right? Like, for example, bribing their students with hookers and blow. I'm not kidding. They were actually giving cocaine and prostitutes.
It is Miami, and come on, we have a reputation to maintain.
It is a reputation. It is a reputation. Okay, let's get into it here because I promised I would get it on the back end, and we got to talk about it. Is let it off your chest. Just give me your short take. You don't have to do a full take, but just do a short. What is your big beef with the new child rapist death penalty statute? Go, Steve.
Well, there's two things. One is the non-unanimous jury verdict to put somebody to death, reducing it from unanimity of the jury, 12-person jury, to 8-4, which is ridiculous. Unanimity is required. And I think it's.
And by the way, that's constitutional law, right? So that's the thing I think they're going to run up against. That I don't think they're going to change.
Well,
I don't think they're going to drop that.
Wait a second. Now we're talking my wheelhouse. Come on.
Okay.
I'm going to spread my wings here.
Hold on. I defer, Gosney. Please. I am in your shadow. Go.
Well, you're the Disney man. I got to talk about something. No, and so the other thing is death penalty for the non-homicide offense. Let's just say that. Now, that portion is in direct conflict with a U.S. Supreme Court decision. It's Kennedy versus Louisiana. And there's also a case called Coker. And those cases explicitly say you cannot use the death penalty for non-homicide offenses. Now, I will say the Louisiana case was a 5-4 decision. So DeSantis is calculating that he is going to target the conservative court to overturn that precedent. The second thing is a non-unanimous jury verdict, and that is also in contradiction with a Florida case called Hearst that overturned the Florida Supreme and said you must have unanimous jury verdicts. Now, so again, he's praying to Satan that the new Supreme Court will support his initiatives,
right?
But it's really, don't be fooled by all you DeSantis fanboys out there, and I see you out there. It's you and you. I see you. Don't be fooled. This is a political play to you to say, look how tough he is on the death penalty, and he's going to challenge all these lefties and everything else. That's what's going on. It's a political move. He doesn't give a whit about this thing. If they executed everybody on Florida's death row tomorrow, your crime is still going to be there. Murders will still happen. It's not going to solve anything except cast blood on the state of Florida.
Yeah, no, I do agree on the fact that it is clearly political. Now, I'm of the mind, because this is of the legal mindset. This is and by the way, this is my political opinion, not my legal opinion. So let me just be very clear about this. I do like pushing back and being aggressive with trying to reset legal standards, right? Because that's something from a right-left culture war sort of perspective, right? Just pulling out, right? The left constantly is the one pushing aggressive laws that the right has to fight against, right? So, for example, we'll talk Second Amendment, right?
Well, they'll talk about the University of the New College of Florida. Right. He's doing great. Now, thumbs up. That's the battle that needs to be fought, right?
Yes, agree with that. And that's where I think he needs to focus on, where he can definitely get the W, because it looks better if you not only are pushing, but you can actually win. I don't think he's going to win here because, like you said, he's pushing against Florida precedent, right? He's pushing
against U.S. Supreme Court precedent.
And U.S. Supreme Court precedent.
He's packed the court. Florida's going to give him the nod all the way up. It's
Florida
the federal
will.
Yes. Now, I've been thinking about this because one of my questions is, because to me, the Florida courts are bound by the federal precedent. So if the Florida courts are being honest, they've got to strike it down, and then it's going to reach the U.S. Supreme Court, and then they might take it up or might not. I see that, because they are duty bound. The appellate courts must follow controlling precedent, and there is controlling precedent on no death penalty for non-homicide offenses. Look it up. It's Kennedy versus Louisiana. Yep. And so that is the U.S. Supreme Court saying you cannot have the death penalty for non-homicide. So I think that then when it gets knocked down, the Supreme Court could just vote not to take it.
Yep.
Now he's gaming that he's going to try to make it a political issue. Oh, we need to pack the Supreme Court so that we can bring death upon us all.
Right. Well, but I don't think given the current proclivities of the Supreme Court, right? U.S. Supreme Court, not Florida, right? U.S. Supreme Court. That's where I'm kind of saying, okay, I don't think they're as solid in the tank for this as
I don't either.
May think. And and by the way, people paint them as, it's this conservative supermajority. It's not that strong, guys. Look at Roberts is pretty much on the left. Roberts is like
he's an institutionalist.
He's like Joe Manchin.
He's an institutionalist. He's an institutionalist. I think there might be 3 votes to take the cert, but I think it could get overturned below, and the Supreme Court doesn't take it. I don't see, to me, it's a lot of wasted effort in an area that's not going to improve the body of the voter politic and the citizens of Florida or the citizens of this country. He's fighting a battle that if he wins, it's going to make us all poorer. I vastly disagree with him on this. And I've done rants. It seems like I'm the death penalty guy, which is what I'm working with. I get it. But I will say that I have political views, right? And I don't like where DeSantis is doing with this. He's a politician. He's playing to your bloodthirst.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, my issue with the death, and this is one thing I think we could fundamentally maybe disagree on or agree on, whatever it is. But my fundamental issue is, even if you agree with it on principle, right? Even if you agree with the morality of the death penalty, the way it's executed, right, is not achieving the result that you would want. Right.
Well, in fact, part of the problem, and I told this to Joe, I guess whatever it was on us recently on Joe's show.
Theory versus practice, right?
Well, practice, and when I told Joe this, it really shook him up because, and that is the statistics are, and I looked it up and I emailed it to Joe also after the stream to confirm that I was correct, and that is that since 1973, we have executed a little over 100 people on death row in Florida. Mm-hmm. Big deal, right? And so of those 100, now, so we've executed 100. Also, since 1973 in Florida, we have exonerated 30 people off of death row. So when you've got basically a 1 out of 3 standard, there's something wrong with your system. And I will say that, and this is the problem.
Well, but I will say exoneration,
that's actual innocence. That doesn't mean not guilty because of a technicality or something.
Right. That means an appeal DNA, or something like that, right?
That means there was DNA and the person didn't do it, or it's beyond a reasonable doubt there was another suspect, or there was withheld evidence and all kinds. That's actually exonerated. Right. And that is a ridiculous error thing. There should be a moratorium on the death penalty, but instead we're going whole hog. We're reducing protections. We're packing the courts full of judges. And one of the reasons that I'm probably not judge qualified under DeSantis is because of my death penalty position. So everybody that comes through the little pipeline has to salute to the death penalty. I remember I was on the JNC, which was, we select judges at the time. And one of the best answers from one of our judges candidates, who's now a judge actually, came through when he came through, and he was being asked about the death penalty. And we sent him up to and his answer to me was the best answer. He says, it should be difficult and hard for the state to execute.
No, and I agree. By the way, I agree with that, right? I don't think we should be China, which is rolling, by the way, 8,000 executions a year for the last, 2 decades, right? That's about their average, right?
Is that where we want to go?
Is that where we want to go? No, we don't want to be that, right? And look, Alyssa had a good comment here. I agree, Andrew. From morality, I agree, but I don't trust the state to get it right. Prosecutorial misconduct's real, and that's what I do believe in. And I've seen too much prosecutorial misconduct to really believe in the application of it. In theory, I do support it, right? But I think the practice is where I have the issue, right? The implementation and the people and the humans.
Well, anybody who wants to hear the full version, go to my Rumble channel, and there is a 1 hour and 10-minute video that I explain 18 different reasons why it's bad public policy. And so it's not a knee-jerk sloganeering thing. You have to really think about it. And go to my Rumble channel, look it up. There's a guy on getting ready to get executed. You can go to that video and you can get the full panoply. And actually, I want people to give me counter arguments because I'm writing a book on this.
No, and this is the type of conversation that's good. You know, when people talk about having these conversations, it's like, no, this is good. Like, I want people to make me think about it, to make me think in a different way, to make me consider the other side. And for me, whenever I spoke with educated people on this, I'm like, this is a very complicated topic, right? I can get into my.
No, this is the land use domain for criminal lawyers, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's the basic, there's the fun stuff and misdemeanor, then there's the hard stuff and felony, and then there's the top of the mountain. And as it should be, because if you're talking due process, okay, how much due process do you need for a speeding ticket? How much due process for death?
Right.
Maximum.
Yeah, maximum process. Yes, you should have maximum process if someone is taking your life. However, you know, at a certain point, it's like, you know, if we're getting that, we should be getting that right? We should be doing it right, so we don't need 20 years of.
Well, that's the topic of my second death penalty book.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a death penalty, here's how you need to have it and fix it.
And that's what I could get at, is it's not there. It's not in that fixed state, you know, if you're going to have it.
But see, what the prosecutors, they don't get what they want. And they say, oh, we love the juries. We respect the juries. And then when the jury comes back with something they don't like, they say, well, now we got to change the rules.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I will say they get in this prosecutorial mindset. I also dated a prosecutor, you know, whatever. A lot of people here.
Yeah. What else I didn't date you, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who knows? Steve got
time, right? Go on, right?
Yeah. But they have a certain mindset. Prosecutorial misconduct resulting in a wrongful capital conviction should result in a prosecutor getting iced too, but otherwise no.
How many prosecutors have been disciplined by the Florida bar for prosecutorial misconduct in the last 30 years? No, 5.
Oh, 5.
Yes.
Okay.
That's one every 5 years. We discipline a prosecutor. We say,
how many lawyers are there in Florida? Hold on, you know,
90,000.
So, yeah, 90,000, and
so it's
5,
like 30 years.
That's effectively, I think 0.01. You know, like it's very, very, very small in terms of your.
And you know what they do is they bring them in front of the court and they say, "Now you were really bad. Don't do it again."
It's a slap on the wrist. It's not what you think it is, which is you lose your bar license, you are shamed, you're run out of town with a sign on your back.
No, in fact, one of our guys, I will say, in our circuit, who shall remain unnamed, got sanctioned by the Florida bar.
Although you can probably figure it out pretty easy.
You can figure it out. Go look it up.
Yeah.
And I have cases with this guy. He remained in our capital homicide unit in our district after he was sanctioned by the bar. Mm-hmm. He was still running the capital division. It's like he's over there doing the same stuff. So It's like, oh, well, so much for that.
There you go. IWD says, I think the death penalty is righteous, but LEOs function as if they're full lobe lobotomy recipients, and most DAs are Xanny blasted neurotics.
Well, you have to factor that into your support of the death penalty.
Exactly. I agree. I absolutely agree. You cannot. This is why I talk about on my channel, Legal Mindset, the practical application, not just the legal theory, because if you ignore the practical application of how things actually work, you're not connecting the dots. The law is supposed to work to create a better society. If it's not doing that, it's failing, period. And
tying it back to Disney DeSantis, you know, the fact that Disney is not getting special treatment, is treated like everybody else, to me, makes the world a more fair place. I'm for it. That's brilliant. It should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jim Zadala says, if we had an actual probable cause standard and actual presumption of innocence instead of what we have now, which is reverence for a state's decision to prosecute beyond a reasonable doubt, is dead. Yeah, honestly, the state has no respect for the reasonable doubt standard. And Steve's shaking his head. And we've watched this in cases around the country.
And it's interesting because I have my little window into the world of what's going on. And there's a lot of good prosecutors out there. In fact, I even did a video recently on Rumble praising a prosecutor, saying what a great job. And we've seen them, but I'm also surprised how common it is for these prosecutors to cheat. You know, it's like it's all over the place. See, I guess it's just a human flaw, and they're given so much power. This is why
they're convinced of their own moral authority and rightness. They're convinced. I'm going to say this, Steve, and you're going to take a little bit of offense to half this, but
say it on.
If you're a public defender they've never met a guilty person, right? Most public defenders have never met
some.
Sorry, especially the younger ones. You know, we call them the what I call the true believer. You know, hold on.
No, there is. I know the other end. I'm thinking of several right now.
And the other end right now, I've never met a prosecutor who's seen an innocent person.
No, I don't agree with that. I'm going to take issue. I think that there's a subset on both sides that you're correct.
Yes.
All right, but there are.
I will call them both the true believers. I will say, especially amongst young people my age, I think you definitely start out that way, right? Because you're morally convicted, and then when you kind of become the old hand and you've seen some shit, you kind of know a little bit more. But a lot of people don't survive until the old hand status. What they do is they go off into private practice, right? So they leave the office. So I think a lot of those wiser folks leave.
Right. A lot of our offices, our prosecutors and our public defenders' offices are populated by young lawyers who are fresh out of law school, and they don't know the world. They're just learning, and we're training them up. And then when they get trained,
to be fair, it does not pay much in Florida. It does not. You know, don't be a state attorney or public defender in Florida if you want to make a lot of money. It's just not the best thing for you, right? It is very good to gain trial experience. It's probably the most trial experience you're going to get anywhere ever. So if you want trial experience, go do
And we have the best stories.
And
our stories are better than you property law guys. Like, yes, and then I went to the committee commission meeting, and we had a third notice. And oh my God,
I've seen some shit with Colombian hookers and a helipad. I'm just saying, I've seen some stuff. I'm like, all right. So anyways, guys, go follow Steve Gosney. Go check his channel out. I don't want to keep you forever. Steve, hang out for 2 seconds afterwards. We'll chat for a second. But guys, go check out Steve. Hang out on his channel. I will be back. I'm going to try to do a locals a little bit later. I got a dentist appointment, but after I finish that, I'm going to try to run a locals a little bit later. I will be on Midnight's Edge tonight. Rackets on Thursday, not Wednesday. That's getting bumped. And then we'll see what happens with streams for the rest of this week. We'll see what I can finagle. But Steve, as always, thank you so much. Appreciate you being
wonderful,
so based.
So
and
much
guys,
fun.
Smash a like button on your way out. Catch you later. Peace.